Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or I should say good evening. I'm not sure why I'm here. I was asked to speak for 5 minutes and then let you all ask me some questions. I prefer that because then I will have a better idea how to answer you. My difficulty is that I have taken the view some years ago when, in 2002, the first referendum was being mooted, that the questions as posited then were so bound up in legalese that as a lawyer of some years standing, I could not understand them, so I would have voted no if I was voting. This year, in 2013, I took the view that a referendum was not necessary to enable the government of the Bahamas or the Parliament of the Bahamas to give licenses to people to do gaming or to let Bahamians go into gaming casinos. All that Article 26(4)(e) does is to protect the government from being sued by us for forbidding us gambling in the casinos. We have a right not to be discriminated against, but the Constitution says that right, we can't complain because that right is infringed. I'll read it for you, and you can tell me if I am crazy. You can tell me if I'm crazy. Subject to the provisions of paragraphs 4, 5, and 9 of this article, no law shall make any provision which is discriminatory either of itself or in its effect. I therefore adopt, as part of my submission to you, Mr. McClinton's and Mr. Tynes' submissions on these bills. Paragraph 1 of this article shall not apply to any law so far as that law makes provision. C, and I deliberately brought in C there, because that deals with respect to adoption, marriage, divorce, burial, devolution of property on death, or other matters of personal law. Those are matters of choices people make. And the Constitution forbids the government from trying to ram things home to people in their personal life. Okay? And it says, in effect, that they're not bound to legislate the way I want them to legislate, or you want them to legislate. So that in 2000, those of you who are young enough or old enough should remember that the ages-old inheritance laws of the Bahamas, which are covered by devolution of property in Article 26(4)(c), were changed completely and modernized so that the oldest son no longer inherits. They inherit as co-partners, which used to be the law regarding just women, when just girls inherited. That was changed. Was there a referendum in 2000? No. Does that answer your question? Yes. The Marriage Act, which is also included in that passage, was changed in 1983 to liberalize the grounds for divorce and to change the rules regarding the taking care of the children and division of property on the split up of the couple. Was there a referendum in 1983? No. So if there's no referendum in 1983 and none in 2000, why do we need a referendum now, please? Why do we need a referendum? If Parliament has the plenitude of power under Article 13, as Mr. Clinton pointed out, to pass legislation to give citizenship to whomsoever it wishes, why do we need to trouble the Constitution? And did anybody ever tell the Bahamian public that under Article 13 of the Constitution, the Parliament of the Bahamas enacted something called the Bahamas Nationality Act, which replaced the British Nationality Act in 1973. It came into force on the same date as the Constitution. So they have had the power to give citizenship to the children of women born, legitimate children of women born abroad since 1973. They had the power, they still have the power, and if there is a problem, the honest and honorable thing to do is to now correct what you have misdone. Do it right. Then you don't have to trace it again. You don't have to go back. And fairness in itself requires you to do it right. I deliberately put in my answer to the Guardian, my paper in the Guardian, the Darcy Ryan case. Some of you are old enough to remember that. Mr. Ryan was one of those people, and Mr. Tynes would be familiar with that case, who under Article 5(2) of the Constitution was was entitled to be registered as a citizen in 1974. He had a year within which to make up his mind, and he applied within time. He was refused. No reasons were given. And I spent days and weeks and nights searching every constitutional law book there was, because I was the junior lawyer. And I can tell you, it was hard going. Because in the end, Mr. Darcy Ryan won his case in the Court of Appeal and in the Privy Council. By 1979, it was clear that he had not been given a fair opportunity to defend himself against any allegations the government may have made against him. But did Mr. Darcy Ryan receive citizenship in 1979? Okay. He was then forced to bring another action in the Supreme Court for the committal of a certain minister of government for refusing to register him. Unfortunately for the court, the judge had made a mistake. He had made the order for 10 days during the Christmas period, so it wasn't a reasonable time. So the government succeeded on that point. But the point is, Mr. Darcy Ryan, in spite of his entitlement under the Constitution itself, was not registered as a citizen until after the 1992 election. And I dare anyone to contradict what I've said. Contradict what I've said, if you have proof, because I know the case is there. I say that because people are being misled into thinking that documents and laws solve problems. People solve problems. You see, whatever you put in the Constitution, I've deliberately shown you that this man had a right under the Constitution, which was denied him for more than 10 years. So what is the point in putting it in the Constitution now? And at the same time, repealing what is there now. They have repealed certain portions, or purport to repeal certain portions of the Constitution. I don't know how that's going to play out, because I don't know how many people are still in the works. I don't know how many people's cases have not been disposed of by the authorities. I don't know how many people were granted citizenship and how many were refused and who may have a right to complain. Do you know? Have they told you? Have they told you how many persons applied for citizenship between the 10th of July 1973 and now? Have they told you how many they refused and how many they granted? And what was the reason for refusing? And have they explained to you what is in the newspaper in 2007, how 2,000 citizenship certificates were granted? And the complaint was, who leaked the information to the press? Don't play with people's minds. We are not toys. We are human beings. We have the capacity to think. Do not insult our intelligence. I know they carried me to war because I honestly said I hadn't read the bills. I saw no need for me to read the bills. Because the bills, in my humble opinion, in my very humble opinion, are not worth the paper they are printed on. There is nothing, even if you are a proponent of same-sex marriage, even I would go so far as to tell you that even if you are a proponent of same-sex marriage, there is nothing in the Constitution that forbids Parliament from changing the Marriage Act. It's in the same section I just read to you. We didn't require a referendum. Am I crazy, or I can't read now? Why do you insult me and think that I must swallow drivel? poured down my throat incessantly. Must I allow you to brainwash me and claim that you are helping my children and my grandchildren? Who are you helping? What is the purpose of all this waste of money, time, and energy? When the roads got holes, my adopted grandchildren call it holes to hell. When you roll over the road, your car go down kabunk, your tire bursts. When the schools don't have the facilities, when the schools don't produce what they should produce in the children, when the hospital doesn't have medicine, what? What? Are you telling me I must vote? Yes, you can tell me that. I'm not part of the no vote campaign. I simply said what Joan Sawyer would do. I'm not trying to tell you how to vote. But I am not going to vote for nonsense. It is time we get it right. We need to raise the level of debate. We need to raise it. And you can't raise it if you try to dumb down the population by positing things as facts and things as true and things as necessary, which are not facts and which are not true and which are not necessary. Does that make sense? Now, I am very sympathetic to women who have their children born abroad in wedlock or out of wedlock. I'm very sympathetic to children, period. That's my soft spot. My difficulty is that the children, in fact, I thought were being used as a ruse to thread the needle for a hidden agenda. Yes. The hidden agenda, I say, was posited last October when the leader of this country said in a public statement published in The Guardian that we as Bahamians need to get in step with the rest of the world with regard to the LGBT agenda. I have nothing, and I tell you right now, I have people in my family who are LGBT, and I love them dearly, but I will not condone their type of behavior. I would encourage them not only to trust God, but to practice celibacy. Because heterosexuals also have problems sometimes controlling their emotions. But we are encouraged to live celibacy if we are not married, and to even be celibate sometimes in marriage. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, there are no babies and there are no children in the room, so I can speak freely, right? There are times when it is not possible. There are times when it is not possible or helpful for you to do other than be celibate. So let's face it. We're dealing with human beings, and we are trying to establish a code of decency and public and moral conduct. You cannot build a country on immoral conduct. You cannot build it. I don't care what they say. You must have a firm moral base. When England was Christian, it conquered more than 2/3 of the world. Where is it now? When Spain was Christian, how much did it have? Where is it now? America is imploding. America is at war with itself. Mr. Dick Cheney, who was the vice president, I call his name because in public, if he wants to sue me, so let him sue me. I ain't getting nothing, so don't know how, so you can get nothing. He said boldly, no marriage must be between a man and a woman. And then he found out his daughter was a lesbian. And these are newspapers, man. These are public knowledge. And he says, no, I think that you should permit marriage between women and men and men. And Mr. President, Vice President of the United States, said that he would put us on some kind of a list, whether it's black, green, blue, or what, I don't care, if we don't get in step with what they're doing. And he says, and it's because his daughter, he's found out, is one of them. What I have a difficulty with that is you cannot change standards because of your personal problems. Standards must stay in place. They are set as goals for which we ought to strive. Not as soon as it suits us, we put them on one side and then we accommodate whoever. Where will it end? I always remember Pastor Cedric Moss's letter to the editor in 2000, and I think it was 2002, when this thing first came up. And he said, in Canada, you'd probably see a man going to the marriage register office with his dog, because they love each other. His sister, his mother, he actually wrote that. It was so enlightening to me that I've never forgotten it. Because it drove home to me the need to reinforce proper standards. We remove standards of behavior in the schools, and what happened to our education system? When if I go to course right on a Thursday and one of those schools are coming out, they have to call the police. When I was in school, you had to walk two abreast and you better not misbehave. Because if the headmaster heard you misbehave on the school, you'd probably get kicked out. And that was a big disgrace. What happened to us? Are we so enamored of this thing called money that we have forgotten who we are? How important we are as people? How important life is? How important it is to strive for excellence? Are we going to always consider going with the lowest common denominator rather than the highest common factor? I'm not good at math, so I just throw those two in there to fool you all. But you see why I would have said, quite honestly, I did not read the bills. I have since read them, and I told my colleagues here that when I read them, they made me even more distressed, because it made clear to me that the persons who were positing these things had not considered the ramifications, possible and probable. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for me, please shoot it to me. I must sit down. Thank you.